What's up, everybody? Okay, so did you know that we post questions in our community post section on our YouTube channel every day? So if you're subscribed to our channel, in your feed, you're going to see pretty much a daily, really well-arranged question that's really relevant to the real estate examination. And our subscribers have loved these. They are doing quite well by them. People love them. And so what we did was, over time, we actually came up with a lot of content to support these particular questions. And what I'm going to do today is we're going to go through 7 of our most popular community post questions, and we're going to cover the percentages of the wrong answers and explain why the right answers are the right answers and the wrong answers are the wrong answers. And that's coming up next. Okay, so what I'm going to do in this format is I'm going to go through the questions that we had in the community posts, and I'm going to cover the questions. And then what we're going to do is, where appropriate, I'm going to show you either where the majority of students answered the correct question and which were the most popular wrong answers. And then in some instances, I'm also going to cover a larger percentage of students who might have picked a very specific wrong answer and why that isn't the correct answer. So let's get started with this review. What is a significant responsibility of property managers concerning property maintenance? Letter A, negotiating lease agreements. Letter B, handling tenant disputes. Letter C, repairing major systems issues at cost. Letter D, conducting regular property inspections. And the answer is letter D, conducting regular property inspections. All right, so 52% of the community selected the correct answer here, letter D, as their main choice. Other wrong answers in the community picked letter A as their answer, negotiating lease agreements, and letter B, repairing major system issues at cost. Well, I can eliminate letter C completely. That's not the objective of the property manager, not to do it at cost, obviously. Obviously, the owner of the property would love if they did it at cost, but that's not practicable. The reality here is we can throw C out. Now, handling tenant disputes is a good answer, letter B here. However, the most correct answer in this particular question would be conducting regular property inspections. So the community is on target to get this correct. However, make sure you understand that negotiating lease agreements and repairing major systems are important issues, but issues at cost and negotiating lease agreements, that's a little bit less important than conducting regular property inspections for the landlord to make sure that there's nothing missing or any deferred maintenance that needs to be addressed. The next question is, which type of ownership allows co-owners to hold a separate and distinct share of the property, which can be sold, transferred, or mortgaged without the consent of the other owners and has no right of survivorship? Letter A, joint tenancy. Letter B, tenancy in common. Letter C, tenancy by the entirety. Letter D, tenancy in severalty. And the answer is letter B, tenancy in common. And this is really cool. 59% of our community picked letter B, the correct answer in this particular question. Excellent. Good job. Many students need to understand the differences between these forms of co-ownership. So, co-ownership, joint tenancy, tenancy in common, tenancy by the entirety, and then tenancy in severalty was just for individuals. The word severalty seems like it's several of something, but it really means single or sole ownership. So, the two most popular incorrect answers for this particular question was joint tenancy. And I would tell students that pick joint tenancy, you just want to go back and understand. Joint tenancy has the right of survivorship. So this is something that you definitely want to know. And then, the tenancy by the entirety is for married couples. So it said, which type of ownership allows co-owners to hold separate and distinct shares? Well, separate and distinct isn't tenancy by the entirety or joint tenancy. Joint tenancy means equal ownership interests. Everybody has to agree to sell. Everybody has to agree to do stuff. Tenancy by the entirety, married couples only. Tenancy in severalty means only one person or one entity. So tenancy in common allows you to sell your interest, transfer your interest, or mortgage your interest without the consent of the other owners. And tenancy in common has no right of survivorship. So something that you definitely want to know is, what is the right of survivorship? Which one of these co-ownerships have it? And you will see questions like this. So this is a good one you definitely want to focus on for your exam. Under which type of agency relationship does a real estate agent typically operate when representing a client? Letter A, special agent. Letter B, general agent. Letter C, dual agent. Letter D, sub-agency. And the answer? Letter A, special agency. And 46% of our community picked letter A as the correct answer. Now check this out. 42% picked general agency, and the rest were distributed amongst letter C and D. So again, it's understanding what is the type of relationship that is typically happening when we are representing, when a real estate agent typically operates when representing a client. And when you're specifically working with a client, that is known as a special agency relationship. Now, a lot of folks pick general agency. A salesperson, for example, is a general agent of their broker. But a real estate agent, we sometimes use that phrase, and it can be mistaken or misunderstood. And the relationship between a real estate professional and their client is that of a special agency relationship. This is one of those questions that seemingly are pretty simple, but not knowing what the difference is going to tank this question. So look here, and you notice that 42% of the community thought general agency was the answer. Now, if it said something about the relationship between a broker and their salesperson, absolutely general agency. A salesperson is a general agent of their broker. If it's a property manager is a general agent of their client or customer, whoever they're representing their investment property. But a relationship between a real estate professional and their client is going to be that as a special agency relationship. Which of the following is or are a private control on property? Letter A, property taxes. Letter B, eminent domain. Letter C, deed restriction. Letter D, police powers. And the answer? Letter C, deed restrictions. 62% of our community picked this as the correct answer. Great job. And the rest of the community picked in a fairly even distribution between A, B, and D. So going to this, if we just simply look at what we're looking at, these are private controls. How does private controls work? Well, in other words, you could ask yourself, which one of the following is not a private control? Which of these are not private controls? So if it's not a private control, then it's a public sector control. So public controls, the public has the right to control property taxes. Hey, we, the community, say pay property taxes, and if you don't pay your property taxes, then suffer the consequences. We, the people, have the right of eminent domain. That's a constitutional right. That's a public control. And then policing powers are public controls, zoning, ordinances, and such. Those are all policing powers, right? So all of that stuff is within the world of public controls. And the only odd duckling out is deed restrictions, which are private restrictions contained within the deed. Sometimes we call these C, C, and R's, by the way, covenants, conditions, and restrictions. And this is a great question explaining and understanding what a private control on property is. In which of the following situations would a real estate licensee be considered a non-agent? Letter A, when they are working as a sub-agent. Letter B, when they are working as a facilitator. Letter C, when they are working as a dual agent. Letter D, when they are working as a fiduciary. And the answer is letter B, when they are working as a facilitator. All right. So 74% of our community picked this as the correct answer. This was an excellent job. Non-agents are also known as facilitator, are also known in some jurisdictions as transaction or transactional brokers. So all of those phrases are the same as saying non-agent. So you want to know what are facilitators for sure. And then another possible opportunity here with an exam question might be, which of the fiduciary obligations would a non-agent still owe to both sides? And because both sides are being treated as customers, then the answer is disclosure and accounting. That is it. Everything else, the care, obedience, loyalty, and confidentiality, those are all out the door. And then just disclosure of known material facts or defects that could adversely impact the health or safety or the outcome of the transaction, material facts of information, and then being accountable of all the money being held to both sides. So this is an excellent question. You'll see something like this in reference to the non-agency facilitators or transactional brokers. Barbara purchased a home for $552,500, which was 15% under the original list price. What was the original asking price for the home? Letter A, $575,000. Letter B, $600,000. Letter C, $625,000. Letter D, $650,000. And the answer is letter D, $650,000. Now look at this. 30% of our community got this number. Now what I'm going to do is actually blasted by it just a second ago, but I want to go through the rationale and show you how we came to the answer. And if you also notice here, 22% of the community picked $575,000 and 39% of the community picked $625,000. So let's go into how to do this so you can understand where we came up with this answer. And you will typically see with math these kinds of percentages that are skewed. But this is an important one to understand because of the distribution. So just kind of looking at this, Barbara purchased a home for $552,500, which was 15% under the original list price. What was the original asking price for the home? To find the original list price, we divide the purchase price, which is $552,500, by the 85% that she paid, or 0.85. So if you look at this, which was 15% under the original list price, so therefore she paid 85% of the original list price. So if you're trying to figure out what that number is, when you divide the purchase price by that 85%, or in other words, $552,500 divided by 0.85, you get $650,000. And there's a tip here. If you're stuck, multiply each of the given answers by 85%. So really the big trick here is if you go through this list, 575 times 85, you get 488. 600,000 times 0.85, you get 510. 625 times 0.85, you get 531,250. And then 650 times 0.85, you get $552,500. So just using the reverse mathematics is going to help you get to the answer of letter D. So you want to be able to do that. And the big trick here was understanding that the number ultimately is 85%. So Barbara ended up spending 85% of the original list price. So if the original list price is 100%, and then this was 15% under the original list prices of $552,500, which is what she paid, well, that's 85% of the original list price. Now we just have to just understand that the 15%, really you need to understand that it's 85% is what she spent for the property. And that's the big trick here to be able to do something like this. So hopefully something like this will come up, and now you know how to do it, so you're going to nail it. All right, a homeowner notices that their property value has decreased because a nearby factory emits unpleasant odors, discouraging potential buyers. What type of depreciation is this? Letter A, physical deterioration. Letter B, functional obsolescence. Letter C, external obsolescence. Letter D, economic deterioration. And the correct answer is letter C, external obsolescence. Now, 51% of our community picked this as the correct answer. And then notice this one. This is a really good one because 38% of our community picked economic deterioration. Now, there is no such thing as economic deterioration. There is such thing as economic obsolescence. So sometimes external obsolescence is also phrased as economic obsolescence. Both are followed by the word obsolescence, not deterioration. Physical deterioration is when something on the property is deteriorating, like peeling paint or something like that, which is curable or incurable depending on the cost to cure these items. External obsolescence is always incurable. We can't do anything about the factory necessarily. So these things are incurable. And the trick here is they threw in economic, but they then threw in the word deterioration. So it's definitely not functional. That would be something to do with the property itself. Physical deterioration has something to do with the property itself. And then external or outside of our controls. So because it's a nearby factory and there's nothing we can do about it, but it's still discouraging potential buyers, it's an external obsolescence, and you want to make sure you understand that. Don't get caught. They might use the word economic, but there's no such thing as economic deterioration. There's only physical deterioration in this world of depreciations, all of which you can find in the cost approach in the appraisal sections of your books. I guarantee you're going to see a reference to this. It's very, very common. And the other thing you want to remember is that external obsolescence is always incurable, and they love to test on that, so look out for that. Hopefully this one is going to serve you well. All right, that was 7 of some of our most popular community posts. Don't forget that if you subscribe to our channel, you will have these community post questions in your feed every day when you're there. When you're logging into YouTube and just checking it out and scrolling, you'll see our questions coming up. Interact with us, because this is going to help our community grow. This is going to help you pass your examinations, getting into granular analysis of why things are going on, and now looking at how the other community is responding to these questions and how they're answering is going to help you absolutely get through this examination. Hopefully, I hear it all the time. They're like, D, man, I was here. I was like right on the edge. I just missed it by like 1 point, 2 points. This is going to get you over the edge. This is going to get you to the finish line. Good luck with your studies. Good luck on your exams. I'll see you in the next community post review, which is coming up soon.